Lesson 43 is part one of a two-part lesson on adding and subtracting decimal numbers. And you're going to notice a few skills that they want you to get down today. They want you to really nail down a few things. As we go through the examples, you'll notice there's a phrase that we're going to say over and over and over again. And hopefully that helps you really narrow down what it is that's important about this lesson. The adding and subtracting skills are very similar to what we're used to. You're still going to be doing your regrouping, you're still going to be doing your carrying. But now what we're really looking at is what do we do when we have these numbers that have decimals in them. And you're going to hear that word a lot today. Because it's the main part of your learning target is what do I do when I have numbers with decimals in them. So we're going to jump straight to the examples and start working on this. So I've jumped over to the first example, and the first example has two different problems, one addition, one subtraction. Before I jump into that, I want you to see the phrase that the book uses over and over again. And I'm actually going to back up the book and zoom out a little bit so you can see how many times they bring up a particular point. So what's really important when you're adding and subtracting numbers with decimals is that the place values are all lined up. It's extremely, it is vital to get the place values lined up. And the easy way to do that, the way that you know if you're doing the right place values with the right place values, is making sure that you line up your decimal points. And I know this is very important because as you continue through the lesson, especially the example, they talk about lining up the decimal points. And then when we get to the $2 one, they want you to make sure you have a decimal point and then you line up the decimal point. So very, very, very important to line up your decimals. If there is one big piece that you get out of this, it will be that your adding and subtracting will be very similar to what you're used to. It's just that you need to line up your decimal points. That is absolute priority number one for these types of problems. So as we look at letter A, once again, if you notice that concept of lining up the decimal points becomes very important. I'm going to zoom in on how they chose to solve the problem, and their addition and everything went pretty normally. The only thing that they don't show very well here that you need to make sure that you show is that you need to carry. And if you do that, then you will be just fine. But if you notice, it becomes very similar to a normal addition problem as long as the decimals are lined up. Your decimal falls straight down, your dollar sign falls straight down, and then from there it's just 5 plus 5 is 10, carry the 1, 1 plus 4 is 5, 5 plus 7 is 12, carry the 1, 1 plus 3 is 4. From there, just drop that decimal, drop that dollar sign, like I said earlier. But did you notice that became a normal addition problem as soon as we lined up our decimals? Now, the other way that they will try to throw you is they will give you a problem that starts with $2. They won't give you the decimal point in there, and they want to throw you off because what they're wanting you to do, what they're trying to trick you to do, is to put $5.35 minus 2 because you just see the 2 there. But what you need to recognize is that when you see $2, that's actually this $2 right here. And so you need to add that decimal and the 2 zeros there. And when you do that, that actually allows you to set up a problem just like this. Because you're no longer doing what I showed you. The problem was what we are now doing is we now have a decimal point to line up, and we have place values to be able to subtract. So 5 minus 0 is 5, 3 minus 0 is 3, 5 minus 2 is 3. The decimals fall straight down, the dollar signs fall straight down. Now I'm going to zoom out so I can jump to the next example here. And similar idea, what they're going to add in this time is they're going to add in a cents. Part of this equation. And so once again, it's just take a breath, don't rush this, and just make sure that you have your decimals in the right spot and you will be just fine. So, it says at the craft store, Maggie bought a pad of drawing paper for $3.75, charcoal for $4, and a clip for 15 cents. was the total price of the items before tax. So what you're looking for there is making sure that you have your decimals in the right spot. You have your $4 here and your 15 cents here that both don't have decimals at this point. So when you see those money signs, make sure that you're putting your decimal in the right spot. From there, I'm going to highlight what they have here, because that $4 looks like $4.00, and a cent sign means that you're going to put a decimal here at the beginning of the number, 0.15, $0.15. So from there, once you set that up, all you do is line up your decimals, just like we've been talking about this whole time. And once you line up your decimals properly, it's just 5 plus 5 is 10, carry the 1, 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 1 is 9, and then 3 plus 4 is 7. From there, the decimal just fell straight down, dollar sign fell straight down. We're going to continue on to some other variations of this problem, but in the meantime, I hope you're understanding the main point of this lesson. Make sure your decimals line up, make sure you have decimals in your money problems. So I've turned the page now, and you'll see there's a little activity right here. I'm going to have this paper in class for you. I'm going to load a digital copy into Canvas as well. But this one I want you to finish just after we talk over the examples. So this guy I'm going to do a separate little video for. But for that lesson activity, you're going to find a copy in class, but also you're going to find one in Canvas in this assignment as well. So let's jump down to example 3, and you will be very surprised at the instructions that they give you once we establish these problems. So what we're seeing here, letter A, we have 2/10 plus 5/10. And as you can see on letter A, they give you a little explanation there. We line up the decimal points and then add. On letter B, we have 3 and 47 hundredths, take away 3 and 41 hundredths. And if you see those instructions, you line up the decimal points and subtract. So same idea, we still want to be lining up those decimal points. If we line up our decimal points, our place values will line up. So in letter A, all we're doing, once we've lined up our decimal points, we're doing 2 plus 5 is 7, drop our decimal, and drop our zeros. For letter B, same idea. Line up our decimal points, now everything's ready to go. 7 take away 1 is 6, 4 take away 4 is 0, 3 take away 3 is 0. We are almost done here. We have example 4 here. It says 1 gallon of milk is about 3 and 78 hundredths liters. 2 gallons of milk is about how many liters? So if you have any guesses as to what I'm going to ask you to do, it is to line up those decimals. Line up the decimals, everything else will work out from there. 8 plus 8 is 16. We drop the 6, carry the 1. 7 plus 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. Drop the 5, carry the 1. Drop my decimal down, and 3 plus 3 plus 1 is 7. 7 and 56 hundredths, and I have my label down there as liters. So in case it wasn't abundantly clear, I do want you to line up your decimals when you add and subtract decimal numbers.